Hello, and welcome to Jazz Tonight. I'm Michael Jacobi, executive producer of Jazz on the Plaz, and host of Raising the Standards on KSCO Radio in Santa Cruz. And aren't you glad we're back? I got to tell you, the last 2 years, I don't know what's felt longer. The 2 years Jazz on the Plaz didn't happen, or the 17 years that it did. But we are delighted to be back and delighted to have a new season, beginning with a new friend and a kindred spirits and a marvelous performer, Svetlana. And I realize you're a little bit like Cher and Ella and Billy because I'm not introducing your last name, which I can't pronounce.
Exactly, and that is the reason I dropped it in my artistic presentation.
What is your last name?
Shmulyan.
Shmulyan, all right.
You did it.
Svetlana is in town with the Delancey Five, your group, and folks, if you have not seen her, and by the time you see this, hopefully you already have, at Jazz in the Plaz, as we open this very day that we're recording this, you and I have a long history for a couple of people that haven't met.
That's true.
You were recommended by a good friend of mine, and I guess we had scheduled you for the 2020 program.
Yes,
right?
that is correct.
You were going to open in 2020.
That is correct.
Then there was something going around, and that didn't work out. And then 2021 went away, and 2010 brings us to today in 2022, and we're just so glad you're in town.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Now, talk a little bit about your background with where musically, I'd love to say from Natchez to Mobile, but in fact it's Moscow to Manhattan. You have had an interesting journey. Talk about growing up in Russia.
Well, I grew up like any other kid in the very edge of Soviet Union when it was about to fall. It was pretty chaotic, still a lot of kind of gray regimented Soviet reality in my past, and then kind of opening up to a new thing. But music has always been around. I studied piano, I sang in different choruses and choirs, and just loved music and discovered vinyls of Ella and Louis, Porgy and Bess, or Ella sings Ellington, and just was immediately transported and continue to be.
Yeah, we don't want to make it sound like you grew up in this black and white world with bland food and only listening to symphony music. It may not have been what you're used to now, but Russia has become a very hip jazz community.
Yes.
And our mutual friend Giacomo Gates has done a lot of performing there.
Right.
Have you performed there?
You know, I just kind of, again, when I went to study in a beautiful little jazz school that's called Moscow Improvisation College, and I really, a lot of faculty took note of me and were very kind to me, and one of them has hired me to perform with her trio, she and her husband, but I had an opportunity to come here. Yeah. So that kind of delayed my foray into professional jazz musicianship, but here I am.
So, growing up, your folks, were they musicians? Was there a piano in the house? How did you get?
Well, my parents were actually both scientists.
Okay.
My mom worked in an institute that was very secret. She was inventing a keyboard for Soviet-style PCs, you know, just to do something different, not QWERTY keyboard, but something different. And my father was and continues to be a scientist, a systems analyst, transportation systems. So, but music, it was very important. So I did study music as a kid every day. I went to piano lessons and solfege and all that.
Now, was that obligatory, or did you do it
willingly?
You did it fairly willingly, or?
It was just something that a lot of people in our circle were making sure that kids did, which was actually in contrast to the fact that a lot of people, like my parents who were scientists, did not wish for the kids to become professional musicians.
That really wasn't the top of the list.
No, because they were the kids of Second World War. Right. They were born right after their parents really experienced hunger and evacuations, and they were all trying to pick something. It was generational trauma, even for them. My mom was born when her mom was sent to Siberia to escape, you know, the impending Nazi occupation. Yeah. So they were all about pick a profession that was safe, but also know how to play piano and sing. So if and when there's war, you have another skill to offer.
Yes.
So it was a little bit of a traumatic foray into music from their point of view, but it was joyful.
Now, when you studied, did you study classical, or did
Very
you have
much,
did you
yes.
study classical?
I
And then you had
studied-
to sneak away. I don't make it sound like
Kinda.
that. You had to sneak away to play boogie woogie?
Actually, kinda. Well, again, jazz didn't have a sort of a straight up line love relationship in the Soviet Union. In the beginning, in the 90s, 20s, it very much was part of the psyche, but jazz is freedom. And Soviets really did not appreciate how much freedom it brought. It's the same thing universally. I mean, starting from, to make a comparison, in Congo Square, when African people who invented the music, when the drums were taken away, it's for the same reason. It's because the slave owners didn't want people to be free. So Soviets did not like jazz, did not like that music for the same reason. But during the Second World War, jazz became popular because bands were sent to entertain the troops. And since then, really, it never left. So I saw and I heard jazz at home while studying classical piano, while singing in a classical church choir.
I was going to say, if anything's analogous to religion, certainly jazz is.
For sure, for sure. And then when I finished my first obligatory degree in mathematics, I said to my parents, okay, now can I go?
That was fun, however.
I loved it. And math and music are very close. It's also a system invented and codifying reality, I said, now can I go study jazz? And say, whatever, do it. So I went into this Moscow College of Improvised Music and dove into jazz.
Yeah. And so you were a player first before you were a vocalist?
Yes, though I never became good enough of a player to really call me a player, but I certainly would, listening to jazz and very strong classic music education helped me with, I was playing a lot of popular music by ear. So I could just hear, and the whole system kind of, I remember the moment that I was sitting in front of the piano and it kind of descended on me, understanding of how popular music in particular is codified with 2-5-1s, and I started hearing the harmony and playing and accompanying myself, however poorly.
Yeah.
So,
now, you were on the show the other day, Raising the Standards, and you do a lot of great standards, and you do some of your own things.
Yes, I do.
What did I play? All I Want, which is a tune of yours.
Yes.
Lovely.
Yeah, and a great mentor and a friend, Wycliffe Gordon, was the one who encouraged
Good
that.
guy, yeah.
And he said, okay, Svetlana, so you're recording originals for your record, correct?
Yeah.
And I said, but I don't really write songs. And he said, well, now you do. Go write some and I'll arrange them.
Yeah.
So All I Want is one of them.
So you do the lyrics?
Yes, I do. No, I
you
did the music
well.
and lyrics and chords, and then I passed it over to him, and he wrote introductions and beautiful horn lines. And in fact, I will sing today another original that's not yet recorded, but it's another swing tune that I wrote about,
When
all things
Svetlana
beautiful.
refers to today, you will today will have already happened, and hopefully
Back
today
into the
this
future.
evening, you will have been part of it, and you'll remember it fondly. We are with Svetlana on Jazz Tonight. Let's talk for a second. I tongue-in-cheek said Moscow to Manhattan, but when did that move come about?
Early
How old
90s.
were you?
I
Well,
was.
see, you didn't have to phrase it that way. Now I know, but you were young.
I was so young. I don't age. So strange.
That's right. But that's what was it music that brought you
No,
there?
actually.
Did you pack up and come on your own?
Yes, I did.
Oh, I love it.
Well, it was during the time when I think there was a lot of cultural exchange happening between United States and Russia, and United States was very much invested in kind of propagating values of open society. So one of the cultural diplomacy aspects was to bring students over here and give them education so they can go back and just be, free, beautiful people who can bring the values of democracy there. I mean, unfortunately, as we know, some of that has not really come to fruition.
That's true.
But what it also did for a young person like me, when I came here, I really felt like this place was, frankly, more consistent with my values. And I was able to stay.
Well, we're delighted you're free to be here.
Yes.
And that we're free to present jazz. We're going to take a little break. This is Jazz Tonight. Be back in just a moment.
Hey, come here. You know why I bring my folks here so often? Because Willow Street has the best kids menu in town. And kids eat free on Tuesdays. Thank you. You're welcome. Now that's what I'm talking about. Can I get a wine list? Never mind.
And welcome back to Jazz Tonight. Jacobi with you with Svetlana. Here you are again.
That's me?
Yeah, it's not like Diana Ross. We didn't even do a costume change. We were thinking about that during the break. So when last we spoke, here you're in New York. Tough? I know you had to be tough to do it, but...
No, that's why I felt like this was my place. Yeah. I landed, figuratively speaking, in East Village. And I remember...
You in the East Village, which I love.
And
and down by Cats.
Yeah, kind of. Well, it had a little bit more of that bohemian feel when I started living there. And I walked out of my, three-room apartment that I shared with two other students. Yeah. And, there's a guy walking down with green hair and, his pajamas, and nobody looks twice. Yeah. And I think coming from Russia, I felt, the culture is more regimented, you have to be put together, you're judged. It just felt freer at a very core level, and that's when I knew it's my place.
So how did you go about getting your first gig in New York?
I met some musicians, and they had shows lined up, and they brought me in to sing. Then I kind of fell into the older kind of traditional jazz and swing scene, and at that time...
Which there are a lot of late night parties in New York.
Exactly. And Great Gatsby movie came out, and it exploded. So it's the same thing. I started meeting musicians. They started inviting me to sit in with their bands. And then literally kind of by walking down the street, I found this venue, the speakeasy called The Back Room.
And is that in Tribeca?
It's on the Lower East Side, where it was always behind Jewish deli called the Ratner's.
Okay.
The Ratner's is long gone, but the Back Room is still there. And it used to be a ballroom that the Ratner's owners had, and they would rent it out for bar mitzvahs and parties. And the myth is that we think is true that Meyer Lansky and Lucky Luciano were actually hanging out there. It's a real place from Prohibition times. Yeah. And when the Ratner's went out of business in the 90s, the ballroom was sold as a separate bar, and it was Lansky Lounge for a long time. Then the new owners came in and called it the Back Room, and it's, boasting with patrons, with dancers every Monday night. And I started playing that gig, and it really started kind of coming together for me from there.
What is there? I don't know if it's still open, but there was a place in Harlem where Billy used to play.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the lounge or the bar.
The Bills, maybe Club or something. Yeah,
I went there one night. It was very hip. Yeah.
Yeah, or you mean the Mintons? Mintons is more Miles Davis.
Yeah, no, this was... I did that.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of places have suffered through the pandemic.
And coming back,
Some coming back, yes, luckily for us.
Well, it's tough enough from the COVID standpoint, but then saying, okay, our showroom's downstairs in a small enclosed room.
Exactly.
That was a little tough on people.
No outdoor space in Mintons, or other clubs. Exactly.
So how did did you happen to choose 5 of those musicians and they became the Delancey 5, or how did that all come about?
I'll tell you a secret.
I'd love a secret.
In jazz, as you know, it's not like Rolling Stones or the Beatles, guys got together. Right. It's a rotating personnel community, and jazz is beautiful. People kind of speak the same language. So a lot of my band leading is bringing a suitcase of my music, opening it up, having a rehearsal, and the guys read it and interpret it. They interpret it truly to what my intention was, and then they add a bit of themselves, and that creates exciting, beautiful experience for the audience.
What have you got anything in production right now?
Well, I'm starting to work on selecting songs for my next record.
Okay.
Recording a jazz album is an insane undertaking because it never pays off. There's no return on investment of any kind. But it's our artwork.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Our artwork is to perform live and create that experience, however fleeting that is, and record.
Now, in terms of a bucket list, do you want to do a live album at some point?
I think live album is, I don't know that I'm brave enough, just because a lot of things in jazz are so fleeting and so depending on the sound, so you have to be in this really perfectly
Absolutely.
acoustic space.
Yeah.
The audience cannot be, coughing in your microphone while you're trying to do a tender moment.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see.
You know my friend Amy Cervini?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, the Duchess, who have been out here. And
Yes.
When I was last in town, Jazz Standard.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
what they did.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and it was well done.
Well,
That's
it's
cool.
certainly cheaper
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
going into the studio. But yeah, it has a particular sound. I guess my taste is for more kind of refined, conserved sound of the studio, where you can really go like an artist and keep coming back and adding and changing. And for example, in this last record that I did, it's all about the movies.
Yeah, which you had marvelous version of Moon River. And
Yeah,
there's a lot of
thank
great
you.
tunes. Your website, if you, Svetlana has some marvelous videos
Thank you.
on her website that, as a matter of fact, we just use for Sunday liner notes, which if you haven't looked, you can befriend me on Facebook or go to Raising the Standards. But we just did Lady Be Good, which is a marvelous video.
Thank you.
And we love it. Folks want to find out more, order CDs. How do they do that?
Well, I'm everywhere on the interwebs as
Interweb.
Svetlana Jazz. So if your audience has Instagram, it's Svetlana Jazz. My website is Svetlana Jazz.
Okay.
My YouTube is Svetlana Jazz NYC to see more of those videos.
But if people want, can they order CDs?
Absolutely, yes.
And how many CDs do you have?
Endless.
No.
In
How
my
many
inventory.
how many have you recorded?
Well, I made
Thousands.
you know what they sell, the secret to selling out is low inventory.
That's exactly right. Put a line out front, we'll be fine.
Exactly. Well, I have 3 records. One is a holiday little EP. Another one is Night at the Speakeasy, which is a tribute to this residency.
And then the movie one, which is
Night at the
wonderful.
Movies. And I made, during the pandemic, I made an LP, a vinyl.
Oh,
so
good.
there's I just reordered them. I'm almost out. So
Are you selling a lot of vinyl?
yes, more than CDs probably. People love it.
Well, it's reversed. And I know we just have a couple of minutes, but remember when CDs came out?
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear it. This would be great.
Yeah.
And then people didn't realize, and I didn't myself, is that there are people that produce vinyl.
Yes.
And it's a total different way of producing
Yes.
an album. And vinyl is extraordinary, but the biggest problem, I have a turntable still, but I can't find a stylus. So it's
I'm
it's
gonna
not
order
as
one
easy.
for you.
It is it's not as easy. Svetlana, a delight to see you.
Delight to see
I'm
you.
so glad you're in town, and let's not take so long to get together next time.
Hey, I'm here
I
anytime.
feel like I'm on a dating service. I lost your number. Anyway, that's Jazz Tonight. I'm so pleased to be back and so thankful to these good folks at KCAT. Next show, we've got Tim Jackson from the Monterey Jazz Festival, that's artistic director. So we'll talk about that. Until then, I'm Jacobi. I'll see you soon.